Sometimes we forget why we're here. It's easy to fall off track. These help us remember.
These battle scars don't look like they're faded, don't look like they're ever gone away. They ain't never gonna change. These battles.
Growing up I had a dream, something no one else could see. Tell me what it means when your faith is falling beneath your knees and you can't breathe. Everything you see reminds you of what you're not or something you won't be. You gotta take what you're given, that's how we live it. Don't be mad at the system, it's simply how we've existed. I hear a lot of people talking like they politicians and choose to be an accountant because it's safe in a business. Not because they wanna do it, just because they heard it pays. And who the fuck wants to be poor knowing that's how we've been raised? Society is getting heavy, I can feel the weight. The pressure of success is like 100 million pounds of shame. And that's the reason I'm staying up late, trying to find a way to escape the stereotypes this day and age is making me feel like the only way I'll be happy is getting signed to a label and making money through rapping. I wanna share my emotion because this world is attacking the very principle of life that lets the people be happy. If you don't have a reason to breathe, why even live? These battle scars are impressions of everything that it is.
Scars don't look like they're faded, don't look like they're ever gone away. They ain't never gonna change. These battle scars don't look like they're faded, don't look like they're ever gone away. They ain't never gonna change. These battles.
Now if I had a voice that reached 100 million people, I'd tell them there's a reason that we're all created equal. Cause some decide to be great and some decide a sequel to an average person's life is simply what they want to be. So you make your decision, all I know is what I'm given won't define the life I lead or the way I dwell in existence. I've seen a greater image on the walls of where I'm living, and the words twisted and scripted remind me of something written. Faith is a gift that is given down to the people. If one believes it, one receives it. It's given if it is needed. Don't ever think you're trapped in a life that you never wanted. Your options are infinite, that's some mathematical logic. I'm not saying I'm a prophet, I'm speaking for what it's worth. These lyrics define my prayers and these battle scars on my church. Not saying I'm a prophet, I'm speaking for what it's worth. These lyrics define my prayers, these battle scars on my church.
Scars don't look like they're faded, don't look like they're ever gone away. They ain't never gonna change. These battle scars don't look like they're faded, don't look like they're ever gone away. They ain't never gonna change. These battles.
Well, hello everyone. How are you doing? You caught me mid-typing. I am multitasking. And I know this is super late, and I know I've been saying this lately, but secretary time leading up to an in-person national meeting, it's crazy time. So if I don't look crazy, I should look crazy. So I'll be doing shows while I can, and even if that is 10 o'clock Mountain Time. I do have a history show lined up for tomorrow. Saturdays are always my history day because I do go down to the storage. So today, and I like to take this off the screen when we don't have comments yet, because we don't need that. No matter how much I love pink, we don't need that big pink blob just sitting up there. So I have a short show for you. I was watching Michael Knowles earlier today, as I do, and I had some thoughts, as I do, but it's not many, and I didn't break this up into clips. We're just gonna start and stop and do a little bit of commentary. This one kind of hit me in the feels a little bit because of some personal experiences. But before we get there, let's do the grifting, shall we? Please subscribe to this channel if you have not already. I would really appreciate it. And I see I already have gotten a like, and I do appreciate that as well. Also, you can follow me on the Twitters. It is my full name, but some people don't know how to spell it because they've heard my name is Karen. They think it's K-A-R-E-N, but it is C-A-R-Y-N. So Karen Ann Harlos on the application formerly known as Twitter. And last but not least, that is, I truly need your support. So if you enjoy what I do, the eclectic libertarian, liberty type things that I do, I would truly appreciate your support at patreon.com/pink flame of liberty. I was trying to have a goal of obtaining an additional $50 a month in subscribers, and you can help me get to that goal. So far, not there. So I would really, really appreciate it. And of course, super chats, super stickers, Amazon wish list stuff, all the things matter. Okay, now I'm gonna do a little bit of intro to get into the show, but why do I do this all the time? I'm such a terrible YouTuber sometimes. Look, I'm just getting them all there. You want to know why? It's because they switch the screen, and like the eyeball on and off is a little bit different. I am going to stick comments up since there are a few. And hello, JJ and JoJo. What do I think of RFK? I don't. I am the National Secretary of the Libertarian Party. I care about our Libertarian candidates. But I'll say this, for a Democrat, he's not bad. I'm certainly not ever going to endorse a Democrat or vote for a Democrat. I like the way he's shaking up the system. I like the way he is making some of the right people angry. I do think he's Looney Tunes in some ways and spot on in others. I did get to hear him speak live at PorkFest. There is a complete, and if I remember, I'll stick it up in the top bar here. I did film his entire PorkFest talk. I was in the front row, I was in the VIP section, ooh la la. So you can watch that on this channel if you would like to hear a talk of his that isn't widely distributed. So that is all I am going to be saying about RFK. Seems like a decent guy, but I promote the Libertarian Party and Libertarian candidates. And I like to critique neocons, or theocrats, as I like to call them. So speaking of theocrats, we're going to move on to Michael Knowles. I find Michael Knowles, I'm sure he would find this a compliment, particularly dangerous. For once, because he's just got those boyish looks, so it's quite disarming. I know people, when they don't like a commentator, think they have to say something bad about everything about them. But I think you're lying to yourself if you don't agree that Michael Knowles has a boyish charm that is disarming, and he can be a cutie pie that says terrible things. So we're going to listen to some of his terrible things. And what makes him sometimes what I think dangerous in some way, dangerous to liberty, is he often says things that have a great deal of truth to them. But the part that's bad is so bad that it just makes it all bad, and he should feel bad for saying it. And this is one of those things. He goes on somewhat of a rant about medication and big pharma, and that kind of ties into RFK a little bit here. I don't entirely disagree with everything he said, but what I do disagree with, I disagree with so strongly that I think it poisons everything else that he says. And there's personal experiences I have, and perhaps my opinion is overly colored by my personal experiences, but they are what they are, and I am going to give my opinion. So let's listen to what Mr. Knowles has to say, and we'll start and stop and do some commentary. Again, all super chats do in fact matter.
Great news, fatties. Scientists are promising that soon you will be able to have your cake and eat it too. Researchers at the University of Texas have been testing a new drug called CPACC, that has proven to stave off weight gain in mice, no matter how much the mice stuffed their fat little rodent faces. The drug works by
Thank you, JJ. I'm so glad when I have a live audience. Let's start that again. So I don't agree with him calling overweight people names. So let's get that right off there. But I also don't disagree with him that the reason most people who are overweight is because they stuff their face. And we are probably all tired of hearing the excuses, I'm just big boned or I have a medical condition, when you know that is the minority of people. But there are people for whom that's the case. So to just immediately denigrate potentially some sort of medication that could come out that can help people, I think that's wrong. And you want to know what? As a libertarian, if maybe this sounds a little like Hunger Games where they would stuff their faces and then take those pills to puke so they could stuff their faces some more. You can think that's immoral, but there's definitely a market for it. And if someone wants to stuff their face full of Big Macs and then take some kind of medication to keep them from getting fat, okay. That's just the way it is. But I probably would have a personal issue with that, but he's going to go a little bit further. So in short, there's this apparently some new wonder drug that'll let you eat what you want and you will remain thin. But speaking of reasons that aren't personal vices as to why you may not be able to lose weight, I'm certainly not, as he would say, a fatty. But I think I'm about 15 pounds heavier than I want to be. And I think probably about 15 pounds heavier than is recommended for me to be. I'm postmenopausal. It is impossible. It is impossible. I have tried everything. And before I could lose weight, now it just doesn't come off. And if there happens to be some kind of pill that will help me lose those 15 pounds, I'd be willing to try it. And someone trying to make that a moral issue can kiss my libertarian ass. Things change as you get older. True, there are people who are just big because they have very bad habits and they just want to eat and not eat bad things and not show any discipline. But he's going to paint everyone into that brush. Let's continue.
Inhibiting the way that magnesium flows through mitochondria, which is the part of the cell responsible for producing energy. Excess magnesium seems to slow mitochondria's ability to burn calories, so the drug mimics the deletion of the protein-coding gene that controls the flow of magnesium, thus limiting it and effectively increasing the body's metabolism.
Okay. Lots of alarm bells are going off, like, what was that commercial, Don't Mess with Mother Nature? We're found, like, what's it, Ozempic, that diabetic drug that some stars are using for weight loss. Turns out it can have some really terrible side effects. I bet you we're going to hear about some terrible side effects here. However, that is each individual person's choice to judge as to whether it's worth it. But all of that interfering with the body chemistry in that way, yeah, some alarm bells should be going off for everyone, admittedly.
Which is all a dazzling feat of science. But I have another suggestion. Rather than squander countless resources, man-hours, dollars, laboratory equipment, so on.
I'm going to stop for a second. Whose resources are they? They're not yours, Michael. So pardon me if I really don't give a shit about how you think other people, other capitalists in a free market are squandering resources. They're not your resources. Therefore, they are not squandered. And the profits and things that those go towards, you never know what the butterfly effect is of other good things they could do. I just love it when people moralize on how other people should be spending their money. How about you mind your own business, Mr. Knowles? But we'll continue.
Trying to figure out how to counteract the consequences of people's gluttony. What if we just encouraged people to put the cupcakes down.
And we can do that as well. I agree that a magic pill, if the reason you are overweight is because you just keep shoving cupcakes into your pie hole, yeah, that's a gluttony problem. Of course, Mr. Knowles was going to make this some kind of religious thing, as in one of the 7 deadly sins. But, there is also such a thing as hopelessness. And there's so little empathy in what he says. There are people who go through very bad times in life, and their addiction happens to be food. And then time goes by, and before you know it, through years of bad habits, you find yourself at 600 pounds. Now, that's never happened to me, but it happens to people. And perhaps a drug like this that could get them at least some progress will give them hope. He's just assuming that anyone that would use this just wants to keep shoving their face full of cupcakes. And that could be true for some people. But it also might not be true for others. And is this type of shaming of everybody in one bucket appropriate? I don't think it is. And God forbid Mr. Knowles should ever need some of these medications he's going to lambast as we continue.
I know weight loss is difficult for some. Some people have it harder than others. But this magic experimental pill that rewires your body chemistry doesn't seem like the best solution. It isn't a solution at all because obesity isn't the cause of people's problems, but a symptom of people's problems. Modern liberal...
Okay, let's stop. That could be true. And some of their problems might not be moral failings, and medication can help. Just because medication is treating a symptom doesn't make medication bad. And as I said, it could be that they lived really crappy for years, but then they look at their bodies and they look at themselves and just feel hopeless. And if this could give some people a head start for hope, they don't deserve condemnation.
Pill-popping scientific culture constantly treats symptoms as causes. Are you depressed? Pop a Xanax. Don't worry about working on your marriage or reconciling with your father or finally finishing that degree or getting a job, even maybe, dare I suggest it, going to church.
And there it is, of course, going to church. Yes, all of those things might be helpful. But this is why I decided to comment on this. And I know some people in my audience will disagree. And I know what I'm about to say is personal experience, and you can say that's not data. Well, it's data for me. Working on things doesn't always solve depression. I am an autistic person. I mean that quite literally, and I'm sure he probably thinks that's bull crap too, just knowing, because I'm functional and the only real autistic people are the people who are nonverbal, and he's never said anything like that, but just by the way he talks about these sorts of things, I would think that wouldn't surprise me if that's his opinion. There are many things that are comorbid with autism, and chronic depression is one of them. I've suffered with it my whole life. Can it be exasperated by situations that I do need to work on those situations? Yes. But there have been times when there's been nothing wrong and I've still been horribly depressed. And we're not talking about the blues. We're talking about clinical hell that I just cannot even describe depression. And some of that is because also comorbid with my autism is I have obsessive compulsive disorder, which is an anxiety disorder that I've had for as long as I can remember. When I was younger, I was much more tormented with it, and it leads to a vicious cycle that can also cause depression. OCD is not thinking, oh, this just needs to be straight. Anybody who thinks like OCD is just fiddling around making sure your picture frames are straight do not know what OCD is. OCD is living hell. And when you're in the grip of it, you know it's irrational and you can't help it. And sometimes the only thing that could get you out of that vicious cycle is medication. Going to church will not solve it. I tried that. I've been through that religious abuse, and it is abuse. I've been told that I'm depressed or I have OCD, and this is before I was diagnosed with autism, that it was my fault, that I just wasn't spiritual enough, that I just didn't pray enough. Now, there were also situational issues in my life that have since been solved, that have seriously helped. So I'm in much better places now, and those episodes do not happen as often. But funny, one of my situations was an abusive marriage. And if you hear his views on marriage and divorce, well, I should have just toughed it out because I wasn't getting punched in the face. And in fact, that is what my church was telling me. You just need to pray and tough it out. Divorce isn't an option. Separation is, if you're not getting physically abused and children aren't in danger, no, you just need to stick it out. Do you want to know how many years I suffered that religious abuse that come from dickheads like this? Finally, one day, because I went to the church counselors. I constantly went to the church counselors. And finally, one day, one of the counselors took me aside and risked her position and said, honey, you need to go see a psychiatrist and get on some medication. You need more help than we can give you here. And that saved my life. So this just super angers me. Are there people who think you can just pop a pill and make yourself happy? Yes. Is there abuse of these types of medications? Absolutely yes. But there are also plenty of people who need them, and it's not their fault. It isn't that they're just too lazy to work on their situation, or they're not going to church, or they're not exercising, or they're not getting that degree. I am one of the most motivated, hardworking people you will meet. I did all of those things, and at times it still doesn't help. And yeah, there are serious side effects, which is why I'm doing a different regimen now. But I'm never going to be cured of this. And I did go to cognitive behavioral therapy, which helped. That's really what helped a lot with my OCD. But it's not the cure-all. And for his self-righteous, smug ass to act like, oh, you just need to take care of it yourself. I would not be here today if I followed that kind of advice. Sometimes you need medical help. I am so grateful that I live in a modern world in which those things are available. And preaching one thing to the exclusion of the other. It's not good to say, just pop a pill for everything. Agree with him, that's bad. But to just totally discount it and shame people for that is also bad. He's going to say some other things which might be true for some people's experiences but haven't been true for mine, and we'll get to those. Let's continue playing.
To recognize the meaning and purpose in your life? No, don't worry about that. Don't worry about that unshakable existential ennui caused by a lack of faith, which is the substance of things hoped for and the evidence of things unseen.
Okay, well, I'm a devout Christian, so it certainly wasn't that. It's so easy to just say, just add God. Well, God gave us medicine too. God gave us talented doctors. God gave us these other people in our lives that can lead us to solutions. This is so abusive. And this is religious abuse. It really is. And that's what got me out of fundamentalism. I was deeply involved in a very fundamentalist form of Christianity. My faith is stronger now. And I just don't want anyone else to hear this and know that they're doing these other things, because you do have to work on yourself. You do have to try other things, exercise, diet, getting out of bad situations. But you want to know what? Sometimes you do need that medication. And it's not your fault.
No, just drug yourself. All better. Having trouble sleeping? Well, don't worry about exercising or trying to relax or cutting down on the partying don't. Just take a sleeping pill.
Here's another one where I'm just going to now start to get pissed. I know it sounds like I'm a person with a lot of problems. I actually do have a lot of problems. And I've always been very open about it. I didn't know in my youth that a lot of them spring from the fact that I have autism. Not all of them, but a lot of them do. I'm a person who has suffered my entire life with chronic insomnia. It comes and goes. But one thing I found with my depression is that if I can sleep, I can handle the depression. Like through almost sheer strength of will and the types of things he's talking about, I can keep my depression under control. But a couple nights of insomnia and everything just goes to hell. And I figured that out with my doctors, that the number one way to keep my OCD under control and my depression under control is to make sure I sleep. And I've done the exercise thing. I've been the person who's like, okay, I just need to tire myself out. And every time I go to the bathroom, like I'll jog in place for 5 minutes. Like, I've tried it. My mind doesn't shut off, and it's part of my neurodivergence. It just doesn't shut off. It's a sensory disorder that I have. So there are times in my life where I have to have Ambien or similar, or I don't sleep. And if I don't sleep, I fall apart. I can keep all of the other things under control if only I can sleep. And for him to just go, oh yeah, you arrogant prick. You arrogant prick. The things you are literally saying can endanger people's lives. And it's not to say that that's the answer for everyone. For some people, the medication is not the best because it is not without side effects. He's going to talk about that in a minute, and I'm going to be very frank with you about some of the side effects in case you too might be struggling with some of these things. But let's continue.
Are you feeling fat? Well, don't change your diet and address the causes of your gluttony and compulsive eating. No, just we got a pill for that too. And these pills are always marketed as healthy for you.
Bullshit. Bullshit. He used the word always. Is it the fact that there are some doctors who are just willing to pass out prescriptions for anything? Yes. That has not been my experience. Every time I have to change doctors because I've got a new job or they changed insurance plans, I go through times of utter terror that I will not be able to get the medication I need because they treat you like you're a drug addict. And I have to justify every single time why I do need a standing Ambien prescription. Like, I'm in absolute terror that my next doctor will not give it to me and my life will fall apart. Right now, I have a concierge doctor who's very holistic, like recommends all kinds of alternative things, but is also balanced. And it's like, you know what? That is an answer for you. So I pay out of pocket, no insurance, to go to a concierge doctor so I can have the peace of mind that I will get the medication that I need. But for him to say that these are just marketed as healthy, anyone who's ever had to have say, an Ambien prescription, you will know it is very difficult to get your doctor to refill that. They warn you up and down and sideways that this can be addictive. I happen to think addiction has a lot more to do with the social structures in your life and certain genetic components. There's been times where I had severe, some of you don't know, I have bad spinal stenosis. I have a numb left leg. I don't have any feeling in the whole backside of my left leg. It's been like that way for 25 years. Thank God my back hasn't flared up. There was a time maybe 15 years ago where there was 2 years straight I had to be on pain medication, on Vicodin. I never got addicted. So that isn't because I'm a better person. It's good genes in that respect and good social structures, which I think is the biggest problem of addiction. But you get warned that with Ambien, that it can be very addictive. It's never been for me. But for him to say that this is marketed as being healthy, hell no. There's the reason why. You just Google Ambien walrus. It's pretty hilarious. On Google, it's like, come with me and have adventures that you'll never remember, because Ambien does that. Some people have terrible side effects with Ambien where they get up and sleepwalk and do crazy crap. I've done that twice. I've been on and off Ambien probably, when did it come out? Maybe 10, 12 years ago. And twice I've done some nutty things. One night, apparently, I got up and took a Sharpie and wrote all over my computer monitor. Luckily, I was able to clean it, have zero memory of that. And one time I got up and I saw my Facebook, this was with Amy Lundy, my Facebook Instant Messenger was up, and apparently I had a whole bizarre Ambien conversation with Amy that just started going into random symbols, and she knew that, you know, Amy was a good friend, and I saw her going, go to bed, Karen Ann. So those are the only two weird experiences I've had, but you are warned over and over again that some people, it doesn't. You can have hallucinations, whatever. It's worth it to me to be able to sleep, and I happen to not very often have bad experiences. You have bad experiences with Ambien when you take one and then you don't go to bed. If you take one and try to stay up and like think it's something recreational rather than functional, you can have bad experiences. But I call utter bullshit. There is no medication I have ever been on that has ever been sold to me as healthy and with no problems. The sheets and the warnings and the hoops I've had to jump through in my life make me feel like I'm a street person, there's a homeless person who's just looking for a fix. When I go to ask for a refill, I'm made to feel dirty by most of the medical profession. They treat you like an addict when you're not, when you're just a hurting person. Talk to people who have cancer. There's someone in the party who's very much an advocate that the war on opioids is a war on hurting people. And when I heard the story of people who have really serious cancers that cause them pain, they actually have suicide kits that they keep. And they pass these instructions amongst themselves because they are terrified of the day that they will not get their pain medication refilled. We shouldn't live like that. And fucking assholes like this are part of the reason. Yes, we need a holistic approach.
But in fact, not only are they not healthy, they are actively harmful. Because the depression, the insomnia, the obesity, name whatever other nasty outcome you want. Those are all symptoms of deeper problems, vices, bad habits.
Okay, really, thank you for telling me that problems I have because I'm autistic are the result of a vice. You want to know what I have to say to you? Go fuck yourself. Kindly.
Resolved issues in your life. And they can sometimes, these little pills, they can sometimes mask the problem, at least for a little bit. But by leaving the underlying cause unaddressed, by leaving all the bad habits in place, they will ultimately only make the problem worse. That is because the problem ultimately isn't that you're a little chubby or a little tired or a little depressed. The problem ultimately is called concupiscence, the inclination to sin caused by the fall of man.
We're going to stop there. Let's go back to the other screen where I can have comments up. I was told that for so many years. You're just not close enough to God. You just don't pray enough. And there's just one step from that to the faith healers, to whom people go up to in wheelchairs and are told the reason they're not healed is because they just don't have enough faith. They're just not doing enough. And that can be sometimes the worst thing you can say to somebody who's struggling. And things he said, it's not entirely wrong. There was a lot of truth in what he said. But the bad part of what he said is just so bad. There needs to be a balance here. And yes, this is a very, very personal issue to me. I've lived through this. And it makes me super, super angry. And I hope there's somebody out here listening that just needed to hear somebody say that. That, you know, examine yourself. Are there things you can change? Are you causing your own problems? You will know that. You can lie to others, you can't lie to yourself. And if you do that examination and you realize you are doing the best you can, you are not some, you know, horrible sinner, then realize it's not your fault. That sometimes you just need help, and that's okay. All right. Sorry this was a little bit of a heavy show, but I figured it needed to be said, and I'm somebody with personal experiences with this, so I felt that I was someone who could say this from the heart. Even after such a heavy subject, I do hope you have an awesome night. I will be with you tomorrow, God willing, to discuss party history. I go to my happy place tomorrow, which is the storage facility, to work on records. So until then, I hope you have an awesome night and an awesome Saturday. So till tomorrow night, love you. Mi guapas de libertad.
Given, that's how we live it. Don't be mad at the system, it's simply how we've existed. I hear a lot of people talking like they politicians and choose to be an accountant because it's safe in the business, not because they want to